You are invited. I don't know if you want to accept this invitation, but it's here. What's going on, ghouls and gals? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now, simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name's Capt. Nostalgia. I'm a writer, podcaster, and the director of our film festival, Horrific Hope. First film festival of its kind to be horror-centric and mental health focused. The real invitation, and I wanted to give you guys all at the beginning of this video, was for all the filmmakers watching this right now or aspiring indie filmmakers. Submit your nightmares. Keep me up at night. Please submit your films, features, or shorts and or screenplays to our 2023 season of Horrific Hope. Links are going to be in the show notes below, along with all the links to all of our social media, movie reviews like this, podcast, and most importantly, our mental health resource library. You can't tell by all the puns about inviting and invitations. We're here to talk about the invitation today. So the invitation is a gothic romance movie that tells the story of Evie, who is a New York gal who essentially, after losing her mom, rediscovers an entire branch of her family, travels across seas, spends time over there, and falls in love, as one does, and kind of finds out that there's something about her new beau that not natural. Spoiler alert, he's otherworldly. I won't say what kind of monster he is, since the trailer didn't really address it, though the trailer does spoil a huge chunk of this movie. And I'm just saying that as someone that watched the trailer after the movie before shooting this video. I do have to say, even in spite of the film's shortcomings that I will address later on in this video, the performances are really stellar in this movie. Nathalie Emmanuel, who leads this movie as our main protagonist, Evie, does a really great job. Like, she is the best part about this movie. I feel like had she not been in this movie and it had been another actress, this movie probably wouldn't have worked. As little as it does work, she really does carry the movie. Doherty plays her love interest in this movie, and the two of them just have impeccable chemistry. Like, so much of the love story aspects of this work really well because of just how the two of them just have such solid chemistry on screen. And even though she is a secondary character in this movie, Stephanie Corneliussen does a great job at really stealing the show. I would say the climax of this movie is as effective as it is because of her, but also leading up to the climax, she just has this habit of just being electric and just kind of commanding the screen and stealing the show from literally anyone else that she's sharing the screen with. It's a true talent that she has in this movie. The performances honestly might be the best thing this movie has to offer. The biggest feat that this movie has to go against is its inconsistency to keep a tone. So much of this movie's first two acts are this gothic romance story that is trying to maintain itself and pace itself well, and then you have these like little moments that are horror. And when I say horror, I mean these are just jump scares. Like they're jumping. Yeah, they're just jump scares. And if you know anything about jump scares, you know that they're just cheap thrills. But I feel like what makes this movie handle the horror aspect of it that it's trying to establish with it is how inconsistent the tones feel. Like when the film is set in the daytime, it is a gothic romance. When it is at nighttime, it is a horror movie. And it's not just any horror movie. It is trying to be a ghost movie, possession movie. It is trying to do all of these things that go bump in the night, and it just doesn't work. And because none of the characters are addressing the things that happen at night during the day, it makes it kind of feel like there's two competing visions almost taking place. Time we actually get to the third act takes place completely at night, and as that ratio that I've just described, of course, this is where the horror comes out. And this isn't just like any kind of horror that the first two acts allude to, where it's kind of like ghost story / possession. No, this is, we're going to go for action horror in the vein of From Dusk Till Dawn, and it just does not work. This last act feels like probably some of the biggest messes that this movie has created, because the horror is trying to has the intentions of being this classic horror movie feel to it. You have the climax that just kind of goes in the direction of John Wick or The Matrix or these big blockbuster Hollywood films, and it just comes up incredibly short. On the flip side, pacing is another huge issue because of the tonal issues with this. There's a lot of just sequences that feel overextended. There's a lot of unnecessary backstory that could have made this runtime a lot tighter, made the rest of the film feel a lot smoother. But we take our time in certain areas of the film and then we rush others, and it just kind of feels like they didn't really know what they were doing when they were originally putting this together. And I feel like walking out of this movie, probably the biggest thing that really gets under my skin is this movie just feels forgettable. Usually horror movies that are released at the end of August, the end of summer, kind of just, again, it's a lot like studios that release movies in January. Every once in a while you get those little nuggets of gold, but most of the time it just feels like a dumping ground, and this movie just feels like an unfortunate side effect where the studio just lost faith and they're just like, they just dump it during a notoriously dead weekend, and as a result this film just feels really dry. It feels unalive, like it doesn't have a heartbeat, and most of all it's boring. It is absolutely boring and just forgettable. So all in all, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 2 out of 5. I think this movie has a lot to offer in terms of performance. The set design, production design of this movie look incredible, but its inability to keep its tone in line, kind of horror it's trying to attract, really just makes this a really messy film, and above all, it's just boring, and I guarantee you'll forget about this movie in 2 weeks. And now it's time to talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health from the movie of which we're reviewing and talk about it for just a few moments in hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. For this one, I'm actually going to take a conversation bit from our two main protagonists, Evie and Walter, where Walter basically confides in Evie that being rich is kind of lonesome, and he's really just looking for someone that he can confide in. I think that's really important. Take classism and riches and poor, take all of that stuff out of the equation for this, and just focus on the fact that this is a character that is legitimately just saying he is looking for someone to be vulnerable with and someone that he can laugh with. And I think that's something that's really relatable for all of us, because we're all looking for someone to be vulnerable with. And I just want to encourage anyone watching this right now that if you are currently don't have that person, or you've been burnt out, open yourself up and see what the options are for you. Because sometimes it's better to be heard than to hold on to the pain and just never let it affect us. Because that pain eventually is going to bottle up until we feel like we can't take it anymore, and we end up yelling at the barista at Starbucks. By exercising our ability to be vulnerable with someone, what we're tending to do is we're keeping our mental health in check, and we're also at the same side being heard, being validated, but also at the same time we're also being challenged to grow and evolve as individuals and people. sometimes all it takes is having a conversation with someone, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a friend, just someone that we can confide in and be vulnerable with. As always, if you or someone you know is watching this and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please click the links in the show notes below. Check out our mental health resource library. Station is in theaters now from Screen Gems. Make sure that you guys, if you guys have seen it, make sure that you guys comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Maybe I am just not the right audience for this. If you liked it, I'm really happy. Let me know what you liked about it down below. And make sure that you guys hit that bell icon. So that way when we release content, you guys are the first to hear about it. Make sure you subscribe. Have a good night, guys.